2021's Tom and Jerry is the worst thing ever made by a human. I mean, where do I start with this thing? 2021's Tom and Jerry is the worst thing ever made by a human. I mean, where do I start with this thing? I didn't expect too much from it anyway. I figured at best it could be a fun distraction, which the original cartoons essentially were. But I did not expect it to be like this, to be as bad as it is.
Why is it so bad, you ask? Let's have a look, shall we?
First off, it probably should have been called Some People We Don't Really Care About, the movie, with Tom and Jerry appearing on occasion. This movie focuses too much on random people made for this movie to the point where Tom and Jerry aren't really in it at all. Which is disappointing for a movie called Tom and Jerry. This wouldn't be so bad if the writing for the people was at least half decent.
Unfortunately.
You done goofed.
The writing and quote-unquote jokes in this movie are unbelievably atrocious and groan-worthy to the point where I'd rather be hearing some bad dad jokes. There was a scene in the hotel office with a fish when it showed what it was thinking with a thought bubble and a poo emoji in it. I immediately thought, yeah, it's that kind of movie. And like I said earlier, there's not a whole lot of Tom and Jerry. As soon as there was a scene of them chasing each other, the next moment is a scene with stupid live-action characters with some of the most cringeworthy dialogue ever. Also, I don't really like the 3D animation for Tom and Jerry or the other animated characters. It doesn't really blend well into the live-action environment at all. Tom, Jerry, Spike, and these other animated characters should have been 2D animated, not only so they look like their original counterparts, but because films like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Space Jam, and a lot of Disney movies have shown 2D animation can blend really well into a live-action space if done right. There's really not much reason they couldn't have as well. Here's some notes I took in the first 6 minutes of watching this movie. It's basically a bunch of things that stuck out to me as being pretty terrible. Some pretty terrible highlights, if you know what I mean. Number 1, I wish they didn't have these rapping pigeons during the title sequence here, or any other moment. They just came across as cringeworthy.
Why? Cause getting mentions on the tip of the vibe buzz.
What they should have done was just have the opening credits showing Tom and Jerry with some musical score. It would have been basic, but it would have been much better than what they did here.
Number 2.
This Landlord Rat is talking and rhyming in a really weird way. I think he might have been trying to rap.
Built-in stereo, but be careful, those seats are very flammable.
Why? Just stop. Don't.
Hey, you don't just Batman me.
I face-palmed and let out a sigh there. Warner Brothers, just because you own the movie rights to something doesn't mean you should just have some weird reference to it like this. Honestly, I liked the scene in Looney Tunes Back in Action when they had those hijinks on some Batman movie set better. And I didn't even really like that, from what I remember about it.
Number 3.
Within the time Jerry was caught by this big bird, fell into a squirrel's acorn, and got chattered out by that squirrel, Tom set up his keyboard and drawn a crowd in the park. I don't feel like Tom would have been able to draw that much of a crowd within that very short time.
There's a lot of weird stuff in this. You just gotta keep walking.
This is what I should have done before I clicked on this movie on HBO Max.
Number 4.
The people in this crowd watching Tom are saying he's blind.
That blind guy's playing piano. I'm blind too.
Thought I'd seen it all with a blind piano playing cat.
But other than him wearing glasses, there's no indication that he is in fact blind or faking being blind. There's not even anything on his sign saying he's blind. It just looks like he's wearing some sunglasses to keep the sun out of his eyes on a rather sunny day. It's not Ray Charles or Ronnie Millsap, for crying out loud.
He can see.
He's a fraud! He's a regular cat playing the piano!
This is just some terrible writing.
Number 5.
This effect here, where it's raining quarters into Jerry's can. Honestly, it looks awful. It looks so poorly done. Did someone have a bag full of quarters and decide to dump every single one in that can? Because that's what it looks like. Wait a second, did that person just grab some of Tom's hat money and put it in Jerry's can? There's a lot of problems with this. Some of that money the person grabbed probably wasn't even theirs to begin with. Boys and girls, if you put money into someone's hat, can, cup, whatever, always remember that retractions are extremely rude. Especially if you just grab a handful of money with some that probably wasn't even yours to begin with.
Number 6.
Oh boy, there's Jerry doing one of those Fortnite dances. Even though it was only for a second, I can't unsee it.
Number 7.
Ah, breath of fresh air. Tom and Jerry chasing each other, just like the good old days. For about 30 seconds before Tom runs into the stack of exposed folded clothes precariously balanced in a box that can't even hold all of them being transported on a bike by Chloe Grace Moretz's character, Kayla. Why would you transport clothes like this? It would just make more sense for them to be in a duffel bag or suitcase, driving a car or something. That way everything is secure for
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Also, the logo on this box looks like it was added during post-production.
Oh my gosh.
I would have used another take.
Number 8.
In the next scene, Kayla is walking on the sidewalk while video calling her boss regarding the clothes Tom knocked off the bike. For one, I would not be video calling while walking on the sidewalk. Why can't you just do a regular phone call? If you're going to video chat, find somewhere to sit, like a bench, so you don't run into someone. Or worse, walk out onto the road without realizing. Also, Kayla's boss mentions that she just left the clothes that Tom ran into on the street. Why would she just leave them? With her delivering those, it was her responsibility to pick them up, fold them, and continue transporting. And this dialogue, like I said, is not good. And Moretz's dialogue here is no exception.
Oh, come on, you can't blame me for that. That was a cat and mouse situation, and everyone knows you just don't get involved. No, please, sir, please, just, you can't do that to me. Last week, I helped a man do a pull-up for an hour. An hour? He achieved his fitness goals with me. You know what? I quit.
You're fired! You can't fire me! I quit! You can't quit! I quit!
It was at this point where I stopped taking notes. Although here were a few more scenes I can remember not liking. After getting fired, Kayla walks into this fancy hotel and she starts talking to this lady who wanted to apply for a job at the hotel over the weekend. After the lady insults Kayla,
The hotel is hiring?
They're very exclusive. They certainly wouldn't hire you.
Kayla lies
Unfortunately, you just failed the test.
and says that she's the hotel's interviewer,
Your interview started the minute that you walked in the door.
and giving the lady wanting to apply a test.
Employees at the Royal Gate Hotel must be accommodating.
Then Kayla takes the lady's resume, walks up to the front desk, and pretends to be the lady she took the resume from.
Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Millions of families suffer every year.
Seriously, Kayla is not a good role model. From not doing her job correctly to criminal impersonation. She should probably be in jail or something. There was this scene in the hotel office where Kayla is being interviewed based on that other lady's resume. And like I mentioned earlier, there's this fish with a thought bubble, thinking the poo emoji. Just... When I saw this, like I said, it just confirmed the kind of stuff this movie was trying to pass as comedy. In an alley outside the hotel, Tom keeps getting crushed by a garage door. It looks absolutely ridiculous, and it keeps on going like a machine gun. It's cartoon, I guess, but seriously, it just doesn't, it's not translating well. It also looks like a JPEG, not an actual garage door. It just, the whole thing, it looks terrible. It was at this point, about the 25-minute mark, where I had to turn it off because my head was just hurting so much from the badness on screen. This is a disappointing train wreck cash grab of a movie, solely depending on the name of a beloved nostalgic cartoon alone to get people in seats, instead of a good story with good writing and characters. It's kind of like what other movies such as Alvin and the Chipmunks, Yogi Bear, and Woody Woodpecker did. If you're a fan of Tom and Jerry, if you're a fan of movies in general, if you like watching movies, do yourself a favor and don't waste your time watching this movie. I'm going to give 2021's Tom and Jerry a 0 out of 5 stars. To cap my thoughts off, the way the late great Roger Ebert put it in his review for the film North perfectly describes my thoughts overall.
I hated this movie. Hated this movie. Hated it. Hated every simpering, stupid, vacant, audience-insulting moment of it.